Hi everyone, it's Julie Traeger. Welcome back to Small Bites, my weekly video blog that talks about nutrition and other things health related. So when I was looking for a topic with this week's blog, I really didn't have to look very far because cholesterol, one of I think the more confusing topics out there right now, was in the news this week. So the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee, which is our national governmental committee that creates our national dietary guidelines and other guidelines such as school lunch guidelines, this committee actually came out this week and said that they do not consider cholesterol a nutrient of concern any longer. So what the heck does that mean? Well, first of all, they were quick as a committee to say that they really weren't making any recommendations on the intake of cholesterol-based foods. But really what they were saying is that they no longer consider cholesterol in and of itself a cause of disease. Now, we've been told for decades that we must eat a low cholesterol, low fat diet in order to protect our heart and protect ourselves against strokes and diabetes. So what gives? Why isn't cholesterol any longer a nutrient of concern? Well, this is really a case of the guidelines catching up to the research, because honestly, the research for quite a while now has indicated that there is insufficient evidence that eating cholesterol-based foods actually causes plaque and clots and other formations that cause heart disease and strokes and diabetes. So even the American Heart Association, the American College of Cardiologists have admitted for quite a while that there really isn't sufficient evidence to indicate that eating cholesterol-based foods is going to cause you to have heart disease or any other disease. So let's talk a little bit about the function of cholesterol and how it operates in the body, and then let's talk a little bit about what does cause heart disease and strokes and other things. So cholesterol is a very needed thing in the body. It's in every cell membrane, and it has some really critical functions. It, first of all, insulates your neurons, which is critical for brain function. It helps your body create bile, which is critical for digestion, and it also helps synthesize hormones, and that's really critical for a lot of different things. So cholesterol really is a good thing, and it's a very necessary thing. Your liver produces about 75% of the cholesterol that you need, and then the foods that you eat provide the other 25%. But what most people don't realize is that there is actually a self-regulatory mechanism in your body through the liver that regulates the amount of cholesterol in your bloodstream. So when you eat too much cholesterol and have too much cholesterol in your diet, then the liver backs off and makes less. If you're not getting enough cholesterol in your diet, then your liver ramps up production and makes more. So it's one of the reasons now that we really understand that eating cholesterol doesn't really create heart disease and strokes, because you have this regulatory mechanism in your body already. Now, cholesterol is responsible to some extent for heart disease and strokes, and let's talk a little bit about how, because it's not the way you think. So the only bad outcome from cholesterol is when it ends up binding to your arterial walls and creating blockages and clots. So yes, that is a bad thing, but it's not that the process doesn't happen from eating cholesterol-based foods. That process happens when LDL particles, which we all know there are two different types of cholesterol we have in our body, HDL and LDL. And LDL has a critical function. It's a good thing too, even though it's been labeled as the bad cholesterol. LDL actually is what transports cholesterol through the body and into the tissue. So it's a good thing. But most people don't realize there are actually two types of LDL cholesterol. There's the bigger, more pillowy form that really doesn't cause any problems. And then there's these smaller, denser particles of LDL that can have a tendency to oxidize when triggered to do so. And when LDL particles, those small, dense LDL particles, are oxidized, and then that in turn creates an inflammatory process, that's actually what creates heart disease, strokes, and diabetes. It's that inflammatory process caused by the oxidization of those LDL particles. And that oxidation process and inflammatory process aren't triggered by cholesterol-based foods, not at all. They're actually triggered by the processed foods that you eat. And again, we've talked about processed foods before, and I'm talking about those foods that are made in a plant, not from a plant. I'm talking about those foods that have ingredients that you can't pronounce or spell. It's those processed foods, particularly those foods that are sugar-based, that are they're the biggest culprits in that oxidation process. So unfortunately, this is pretty sad because we've been told for a long time that we need to eat low fat, low cholesterol, and it's actually those higher fat, higher cholesterol foods that are going to protect us against disease. It's those foods that actually we should be eating more of, and it's the processed foods, that's the low fat, low cholesterol stuff that we really should, other than fruits and vegetables, obviously, that we should be eating less of. And particularly for women 40 and over, or anybody who's struggling with their weight, eating more animal products and more fat, bringing more of those things into our diet, is actually going to help you keep weight off. It's going to help you build muscle. It's going to help create energy for those of you out there who are just tired and feel like you're slogging through the day. Eating more fat and more cholesterol is going to be helpful to you. And it also helps keep our cravings for those bad foods that we shouldn't be eating way down. And I can tell you from personal experience, if you think that my risk for heart disease went up when I started eating a paleo diet, which is good high quality meat, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, not hardly any grains, and no sugar. When I started eating that diet, I lost 10 pounds. I gained muscle. My body shape changed tremendously. And my triglycerides, which is a hallmark of heart disease, if you have high triglycerides, you're really at high risk for a lot of things. My triglycerides went from 150 to 50. And that's I eat probably red meat once or twice a week. I eat high fat fish like salmon. I eat a lot of olive oil, avocados, and a lot of nuts and nut butters. And I have actually become much healthier in doing so. So for all of you out there who are struggling with weight, who are struggling with energy, and who are struggling with cravings, I'd like to present a bit of an experiment to you, a challenge, if you will. Next week, or a week coming up, I'd like you to buy some eggs and get some vegetables, some, let's say, mushrooms, onions, red peppers, whatever you like. Saute some vegetables. You can make a whole batch and keep them in the refrigerator for the week. And make yourself some eggs every other day for breakfast with those sauteed veggies. And see what your energy does and see what your cravings do, because I would venture to guess that if you, and I say eat those every other day so that you can really tell the difference from one day to the next, how eating eggs in the morning and how eating some protein and good fat and good cholesterol will help you. You can really see from day to day the difference. So let's, for those of you out there who are game, let's try eating 2 or 3 eggs with some sauteed vegetables every other day for a week and see how you feel. Now, there are a couple of caveats to what I'm saying here. One is that there really is a percentage of the population, a very small percentage, 2%, who have a rare genetic disorder that means their body can't synthesize cholesterol. And for those of you who have a genetic disorder that around cholesterol, you should not be eating cholesterol. The other caveat is this: if you're going to eat animal products, eggs, chicken, pork, butter, olive oil, you really should be buying the best quality of those products that you can afford, because quality does matter. So if you're going to eat butter, eat grass-fed butter like Kerrygold. If you're going to I drizzle olive oil on my vegetables all the time with a little like lemon pepper. But if you're going to do olive oil, make sure it's actually real olive oil. What many people don't realize is that a lot of the olive oil that you buy in the grocery store isn't actually olive oil. It's maybe 20% olive oil, and it's about 80% safflower or other vegetable oil. So make sure you're getting good olive oil. Make sure it's 100% olive oil. If you're going to eat meat or other animal products, make sure that it's, if you can afford it, make sure that it's organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised. If you're going to eat eggs, try to buy organic eggs if you can afford to as well, so that you're not exposed to growth hormones and antibiotics. So avocados, another good source of cholesterol and fat and protein. Nuts like walnuts, and I'm not talking about, again, quality matters. I'm not talking about the roasted salted kind. I'm talking about the raw walnuts, the raw almonds, the raw cashews, which are actually really good, and if you eat those, you'll get used to them. And nut butters like almond butter, and if you buy peanut butter, just buy peanut butter without sugar. So those are all good ways to add in foods with cholesterol and fat, and I guarantee you that if you start to include some of those things in your diet, you'll actually see your energy and your energy go up and your cravings go down. So try my experiment with the eggs this week, see how you do. I'd love your feedback, so keep emailing, keep Facebooking comments to me on these blogs. I love to hear from you. And coming up in the next week or two, you'll start to hear more about my first webinar series called Worn Out and Nothing Fits. And stay tuned for that. And otherwise, have a great weekend, everyone.